In 1916, Grigorij Rasputin, the enigmatic mystic at the heart of the Russian court, delivers a chilling prophecy. He warns Tsar Nicholas II that disaster awaits, foreseeing the violent end of the Romanov family and the collapse of the empire. As whispers of revolution grow louder, Rasputin's vision becomes a dark omen, casting an eerie shadow over the palace. The royal family stands on the brink, unaware of the storm about to strike.
In 1916, Russia is crumbling under the weight of World War I. Its soldiers are ill-equipped. Some of them don't even have guns. There are food shortages at home. Tsar Nicholas's leadership has been called into question. There's social unrest in the cities. Russia is a country on the brink.
The royal family faces growing discontent as Tsar Nicholas II's leadership fails to address the many crises Russia is facing both at home and on the front lines. Making matters worse, the elite feel that it is one of the Tsar and Tsarina's favorites at court, the mystic Rasputin, who is to blame.
The Russian elite despise Rasputin and see him as a dangerous individual, spewing lies to the Tsar and Tsarina. In the early years, Rasputin finds a way to combine religion with spirituality as a way to gain power. And we see that he becomes the go-to man for people trying to heal their ailments. But is he really healing them, or is he doing something else?
Who is Rasputin, the so-called mad monk whose visions have enchanted the royal family?
Grigorij Jefimovič Raspućin was born sometime in the late 1860s, early 1870s in a small Siberian town. Rasputin grows up in a peasant family. His father was a farmer and coachman. Russia at the time is under the control of Aleksandra III, and the country is facing widespread poverty and social unrest.
Born into difficult times, the Siberian boy's surname is officially Novik. The name history will remember him by is a moniker laid on him later in life, due to his reputation.
Because in Russian, the common noun, Rasputa, translates as immoral, debauched, good for nothing, which is very fitting for Rasputin.
As a child, Rasputin is known for wild behavior and lacks formal education, remaining illiterate into early adulthood. This wildness will be used by Rasputin later in life to further build his reputation of being connected to other realms. In his young adulthood, he experiences religious visions and shows an interest in spirituality. Rasputin decides to explore his spiritual side and leaves for a pilgrimage across Russia. Although it's unclear if this was a voluntary sojourn motivated by a religious conversion or something forced upon him as penance for an act of theft.
It's clear from the experience and the way he writes about it that he was transformed by it, and that from this experience when he returned to his village, this is when he laid the foundations for what would become a charismatic ministry.
The thing that's interesting about Rasputin is the fact that he comes from Siberia, and the form of Orthodox Christianity that's there, this orthodoxy of the people, is a lot more grounded, earthy, it's shamanic, and I use that word very specifically because the Tungusic language and the Tungusic people that come from that same area, Siberia, China, Mongolia, are the progenitors of that word.
Siberia is an important geographic region, expanse, because it's disconnected from cosmopolitan areas. It's remote and it's wild. And in Siberia, the Russian Orthodox Church's beliefs commingle with folklore and ancient pagan beliefs and rituals.
Here, Rasputin begins to gain attention for his intense religious fervor and alleged healing abilities, gathering a small group of followers dedicated to his teachings.
On some level, I think references to Rasputin having dark charisma or this very powerful aura, I think it might be a little overblown. I've read that he's very much a handsome man. He had very phosphorescent eyes, a nice beard. He was tall, supposedly well-built. And he might have just been a guy who really knew how to work what he had.
which enables him to entrap people. He's almost like an occult leader. And it made many wonder, is this really a man of God who can spread the good news of the gospel and heal people? Or is he tapping into much darker satanic forces?
Embracing the role of the wandering holy man, he travels across Russia, visiting various religious sites and sharing his spiritual insights. Some are drawn to his unconventional approach to faith, but there are many who question the source of his newfound piety.
We need to understand that Rasputin, as he began to sell his ideas of a religious leader, was himself a product of a unique and very, very robust, eclectic religious world in Siberia. This is a place with many diverse religious traditions, many of them oppositional to the existing Russian Orthodoxy.
Many believe that Rasputin is influenced by the Klisti, an underground Christian sect known for its alternative doctrine.
Rather than finding God through traditional hierarchies and theology, one finds God through personal expression and salvation.
But the Klisti movement is seen by some to have a darker hidden truth behind the seemingly holy facade.
Finding that salvation, one needs to push sinning to its extreme, to get to a point of pleasure in experiencing God. Now that pleasure often takes the form of orgies.
People also like to talk about their ecstatic practice within the perspective of sex and having a lot of sex present based in debauchery and things that are salacious.
Rooted in many ancient traditions, believers attempt to harness sexual energy for spiritual enlightenment. While definitive evidence of Rasputin's membership in the Klisti is lacking, some accounts suggest that he is exposed to their teachings.
Now, this is 19th century Russia. It's very conservative. And as Rasputin is trying to gain momentum in the elite circles, this rumor around sex magic starts to tarnish his reputation.
Rasputin claims to have developed a deeper connection with the divine and starts to share prophetic visions with his followers.
As a young adult in Siberia, Rasputin begins to experience visions. And during these visions, he goes into deep prayer and contemplation. And it's at this time that he believes he's being communicated to by God.
On a pilgrimage to the monastery of Verkhoturya, Rasputin experiences a profound vision in which he sees the Virgin Mary crying and all of the saints conversing with him. As a result of this vision, he comes to believe that his life has a higher spiritual purpose.
These early prophetic experiences lay the groundwork for the rest of his career. With his growing reputation, Rasputin travels to the capital of Russia, St. Petersburg, in the early 1900s to take his ministry to new heights.
In 1905, he's introduced to influential members of the clergy and even Russian aristocrats.
Rumors soon take hold of Rasputin engaging in an affair with a wife of a general.
According to one version of the story, a witness bursts into the room where they were engaged in sadomasochistic sexual acts, with Rasputin beating the woman with a paddle or a stick, and she was screaming out, "He was Christ," over and over again.
Rasputin's intermingling between religiosity on the one hand and sadomasochistic sex on the other does seem to suggest the antinomial belief that was, of course, central to the Klisti belief system.
Although there's no evidence also that those Russian Klists did that either. In any respect, all it did was cement Rasputin's reputation as a very unusual person.
Word of Rasputin reaches the royal family, particularly Tsarina Alexandra, who is desperate to find relief for her son Alexei's hemophilia, a condition that causes severe bleeding.
The Tsar's palace is awash with mystics and the occult and people who can proclaim some sort of connection with the divine, which is very, very different to how most of cosmopolitan Russian society lived. And there's also, at this time, a feeling that the Tsars need to connect more with their people. So here comes Rasputin, who claims that he can heal people, who claims a religiosity rooted in the folklore of the people.
The royal family in many ways are outsiders, and Rasputin is an outsider. As a result, they put their faith in Rasputin because they believe that he understands them and is the only one who can help them.
When Rasputin meets Tsar Nicholas II and Tsarina Alexandra, he impresses them with his piety and seeming ability to soothe their son. He prays over Alexei, and remarkably, the boy's condition appears to improve.
Following this encounter, Rasputin begins to visit the royal family more frequently, becoming a trusted advisor of the Tsarina herself and frequently offering spiritual advice.
But is Rasputin actually healing the young prince, or is there something else at play?
So Alexei has hemophilia, which is a propensity to bleed or bruise if you run into things and such. And aspirin's a blood thinner. So when you take aspirin, it would actually make those symptoms worse. And so he was on those blood thinners, that aspirin, when Rasputin first met him. And simply by removing that, you're now thickening the blood a little more, which is going to make those incidents less likely to occur. It's going to seem like he's getting better.
Regardless of the reasons, Rasputin's methods are effective in helping the young prince's condition. This wins him support with the royal family.
Rasputin manages to position himself as the protector of the heir's health. At the same time, he's able to skillfully navigate the politics and the dynamics of the upper echelons of Russian society while maintaining this image as a humble mystic.
But not everyone in Russia is in love with this wild prophet from Siberia.
According to some stories, in 1907, Rasputin returns to his home village, supposedly followed by a group of young women. There he is met by religious authorities who place him under arrest. He's accused of holding heretical beliefs and suggested that he has connections to the Kaludjer movement. The investigation goes all the way up, but eventually it's quashed by the royal court, who seem to be protecting him.
Now, of course, Rasputin's association with the Russian royal family is very beneficial to him personally, but it also comes with a downside. Many nobles and clergy view him with suspicion, some would even say contempt. And the rumors about his background, his immoral behavior, his drinking, his affairs with the wives of generals and other high-ranking individuals cause a lot of antagonism.
One of the most controversial aspects of Rasputin's life at this time is his relationship with the Tsarina.
Rumors begin to swirl about perhaps an inappropriate relationship between Rasputin and the Tsarina. The rumors are spread by the political elite and enemies of Rasputin, who believe that the royal family is being unduly influenced by him and that Nicholas is being undermined by his presence.
While these rumors are not substantiated by evidence, they spread. Soon, many in Russia see Rasputin as a threat to the nation of Russia itself.
Rasputin's enemies believe that he's a bad influence on the royal family and that his position undermines their authority. Yet at the same time that Rasputin is offering solace to the royal family, to people outside of that, he represents everything that's wrong with it.
A lot of Russians start to believe that Rasputin is actually a con man, going about his days targeting vulnerable people, including the Tsar and Tsarina.
Despite Rasputin's many scandals, the Romanovs consider him vital to the survival of their dynasty. But they fail to see the greater crisis barreling towards them, a chain of events that would soon overwhelm Rasputin, Imperial Russia, and all of Europe.
On June 28, 1914, the Archduke Franz Ferdinand, the heir to the Austria-Hungarian throne, is assassinated. Later, Rasputin is stabbed in an assassination attempt by a fanatical woman. The attempt on Rasputin's life would have a profound impact on the course of Russia's involvement with the war.
What are the chances that the anti-war Rasputin is nearly killed, that Archduke Franz Ferdinand is assassinated? Is this just a strange coincidence, or is there almost a darker force pushing Russia towards the calamity that would be World War I?
Russia is now at war with Germany, Austria-Hungary, and the other Central Powers. As war rages on, Rasputin makes many powerful enemies.
As the First World War rumbles on, Rasputin becomes convinced, through his visions, that it's just going to lead to more bloodshed for the Russian nation.
Troubled by the growing chaos at home and reports of massive casualties on the front lines, Rasputin continues to be haunted by visions that spell doom for the Romanovs and himself. Yet according to some, Rasputin cares more for the country and its leaders than himself. According to testimony, Rasputin said, "I am not afraid for myself, but I am afraid for the people in the royal family, because when they kill me, things will go badly for the people and there won't be any czar."
The prophecy by Rasputin is really interesting because one could suspect that he already is aware that he is in danger. We're dealing with a man who rises to power at a very volatile time in Russian history. He is very aware of this. He's a product of this peasant culture in Siberia that was very much active at this time and angry and politically engaged. So it wouldn't be surprising that he's using his knowledge of what is going on in the kingdom more generally in order to make predictions.
Rasputin's influence over the royal court seems to be diminishing as the war continues and tensions mount on the home front. Despite this, there are those working in the shadows to undermine him and bring his influence to an end.
In December of 1916, there's a plot to assassinate Rasputin. It's led by a group of aristocrats, led by a man named Felix Yusupov. According to legend, they lure Rasputin to Yusupov's palace, and there they feed him cakes which have been laced with cyanide. But the cyanide doesn't take effect. It seems that Rasputin is just fine. So they try a different approach. Yusupov pulls out a pistol and shoots Rasputin in the chest. When Rasputin still doesn't die, the other aristocrats begin shooting Rasputin too. If that wasn't enough, they roll up the body in a carpet and beat him with sticks. Finally, they take the body and dump it into an icy river.
But the story of his death, like so much of Rasputin's life, is more legend than reality.
The story that came of a person so powerful that you had to basically kill him 4 times to kill him, that really helped his reputation grow big time. And yeah, when we find out that that wasn't true, it makes us think, okay, maybe he was just a person who was very good at playing what he did and then took it a little too far and met his demise.
The assassins of Rasputin are banished from Russia, but are protected from further prosecution because of their high status in society. With Rasputin dead, the grip he has on the Romanov family in Russia is extinguished. But the troubles for Russia are only beginning.
In February, just a couple of months later, the Russian Revolution begins, and Tsar Nicholas II is forced to abdicate. A provisional government takes over, and the Romanov dynasty comes to an end.
But the most chilling of Rasputin's prophecies come true in 1918.
Tsar Nicholas and his family are being held captive in a house by the Bolsheviks. In a tragic moment, they are ordered downstairs to the basement under false pretenses and are summarily executed. The death of the Tsar and his family seems to confirm the central promise of Rasputin's prophecy. He said that if he was killed by aristocrats, then the royal family would meet their end by the hands of the Russian people.
To this very day, Rasputin remains a figure of intrigue. Some maintain he was a great mystical healer, others that he was a dark, almost satanic force within Russian society.
More than a century after his death, the real Rasputin remains shrouded in mystery, lost in a tangle of conflicting accounts, exaggeration, and myth.